The screech of brakes split the morning air like a scream, but Marcus Chen was already running. Traffic on Interstate 95 had come to a complete standstill, 18-wheelers and sedans alike frozen in a chaotic tableau of twisted metal and shattered glass. Somewhere in the middle of it all, a small golden retriever wandered between the vehicles, limping and disoriented. Marcus didn't hesitate. The 34-year-old software engineer vaulted over the guardrail, his dress shirt catching on the twisted metal as he landed hard on the asphalt. Behind him, other motorists shouted warnings, their voices barely audible over the din of idling engines and emergency sirens approaching from the distance. "Stay back," Marcus called over his shoulder, his eyes never leaving the dog. The animal was maybe 50 yards away, moving erratically between a jackknifed semi and an overturned SUV. Blood matted the fur around its left ear, and it favored its right front paw as it stumbled deeper into the maze of wreckage. Dr. Sarah Martinez watched, from her position near the ambulance staging area, her paramedic training keeping her focused despite the chaos. She'd been first on scene after a multi-vehicle accident that had somehow left no human casualties. Until now. The golden retriever had appeared from nowhere, as if materializing from the twisted metal itself. Marcus moved with surprising grace, for someone navigating a disaster zone. He kept low, speaking in soft, reassuring tones as he approached the frightened animal. "Easy, boy, easy. I'm here to help." The dog's ears perked up at his voice, and for a moment, something flickered in, its dark eyes, not just fear or pain, but something deeper. Recognition, perhaps, or understanding that transcended the barrier between species. That's when the fuel truck's brakes failed. Later witnesses would describe the sound as otherworldly, the grinding of metal against asphalt, the screaming of air brakes pushed beyond their limits. The massive tanker, laden with 8,000 gallons of gasoline, had been approaching the accident scene at a cautious speed when its brake line ruptured. Marcus heard it first. He spun around, saw the silver behemoth bearing down on them, and made his choice in the span of a heartbeat. Instead of diving to safety, he lunged forward, scooping the golden retriever into his arms and throwing himself toward the overturned SUV. The explosion lit up the morning sky like a second sun. When the smoke cleared and the emergency crews could finally approach, they found Marcus Chen's body shielding the dog beneath the SUV's twisted frame. He had managed to get them both partially under cover, but the blast had been too close, too powerful. The man was gone, but the golden retriever, impossibly, was alive. Dr. Martinez knelt beside them both, her hands trembling as she checked for signs of life. Marcus's pulse was gone, his body bearing the full brunt of the explosion's fury. But the dog looked up at her with those same dark eyes, alert and aware despite the trauma. "How?" she whispered, more to herself than to anyone. "How did you survive that?" The dog's tail moved slightly, not quite a wag, but something close to it. Around its neck, barely visible beneath singed fur, was a collar she hadn't noticed before. Old leather, weathered and worn, with something etched into a small metal plate. As she reached for it, the dog's eyes seemed to focus on something beyond her shoulder, beyond the wreckage, beyond the highway itself. Its ears perked up as if hearing something only it could perceive. And for just a moment, Dr. Martinez could have sworn she saw the animal nod. The media would arrive within the hour, followed by Marcus's devastated family. The story would spread across social networks like wildfire. Hero dies saving dog from highway explosion. But none of them knew what Dr. Martinez had seen in those few quiet moments before the circus began. None of them had looked into those two knowing eyes and wondered what secrets lay hidden beneath that golden fur. The funeral of Marcus Chen drew hundreds of mourners to St. Catherine's Cemetery on a gray October morning. His parents, David and Linda Chen, stood at the graveside as strangers approached to share stories about their son's final act of heroism. The golden retriever sat quietly beside the casket, having refused to leave Marcus's side since the accident 3 days earlier. Dr. Martinez had tried returning the dog to animal control, but something about the situation felt wrong. The animal, showed no signs of trauma beyond the minor injuries from the highway incident, and more puzzling still, no one had reported a missing golden retriever matching its description. She'd run its microchip through every database available. Nothing. No veterinary records, no previous owners, no history at all. He just appeared, she told Detective Ray Holbrook when he stopped by the clinic for the third time that week. I've worked animal rescues for 15 years, Detective. Dogs don't just materialize on highways. Holbrook flipped through his notepad, frowning. The accident reconstruction team can't explain it either. The initial collision involved 4 vehicles, a fender bender, really. Everyone walked away with minor injuries. Then this dog shows up, Marcus Chen tries to save it, and suddenly we have a catastrophic fuel truck accident. The detective had interviewed every driver involved in the original accident. None of them remembered seeing a dog before Marcus entered the roadway. Security footage from nearby businesses showed the traffic backup, the arrival of emergency vehicles, Marcus jumping the guardrail, but no golden retriever until the moment Marcus began moving toward the wreckage. Linda Chen approached Dr. Martinez. After the service, her eyes red with grief but determined. "I want to adopt him," she said, nodding toward the dog. "The dog Marcus died for. It's the least I can do. Mrs. Chen, I understand your feelings, but perhaps you should take some time." "No." Linda's voice carried the quiet strength of someone who had made an irrevocable decision. Marcus loved animals. He volunteered at the shelter every weekend since high school. This dog was worth dying for in his eyes, so it's worth living for, in mine. Dr. Martinez watched the golden retriever during this conversation. The animal sat perfectly still, its attention focused entirely on Linda Chen's face, not watching her lips move or responding to the sound of her voice, but studying her with an intensity that seemed almost human. That evening, as Linda Chen prepared to take the dog home, Dr. Martinez noticed something that made her blood run cold. While reviewing the medical records she'd compiled, she discovered an anomaly in the dog's vital signs that defied explanation. Its heart rate, blood pressure, and respiratory patterns weren't just normal. They were perfect. Too perfect. Like textbook examples rather than readings from a living animal. She called the laboratory that had processed the blood work. "I need you to double-check the results for patient number 847 Delta," she said, using the coding system they'd established for the unnamed golden retriever. The technician's voice was confused. "Ma'am, I ran those tests 3 times. Everything came back completely normal, but there's something odd. The cellular structure in the blood sample. It's unlike anything I've seen. The red blood cells appear to be carrying more oxygen than should be physiologically possible." Dr. Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" "I mean this dog's blood is engineered for optimal performance, like someone designed it specifically for extreme stress situations. And there's something else. We found trace amounts of a compound I can't identify. It's not harmful, but it's not naturally occurring either." After hanging up, Dr. Martinez sat in her office staring at the dog's file. On impulse, she pulled up news reports from the highway accident and began reading comments from witnesses. Most were typical expressions of sympathy and praise for Marcus's heroism, but one comment buried deep in a local news site's feed caught her attention. That dog looked just like the one from the Thompson family tragedy 5 years ago. Same golden fur, same dark eyes. But that can't be right. That dog died in the fire with the rest of them. Dr. Martinez's hands shook as she typed "Thompson family fire" into her search engine. The results filled her screen with headlines from 2019. "Family of 4 dies in house fire. Golden retriever alerts neighbors. Saves dozens before perishing in flames. Hero dog sacrifice prevents apartment building disaster." The accompanying photos showed a golden retriever that looked identical to the dog now living with Linda Chen. Same coloring, same build, same distinctive pattern of darker fur around the ears. But according to every report, that dog had died. 5 years ago, its body recovered from the ruins of the Thompson family's apartment. As Dr. Martinez stared at the photos, a terrible thought began to form in her mind. What if the dog Marcus died to save wasn't just any animal? What if there was a reason it had appeared on that highway at exactly the moment when heroism would be required? And what if Marcus Chen wasn't the first person to die protecting this particular golden retriever? Detective Ray Holbrook spread the files across his desk like a grim puzzle waiting to be solved. 5 years of missing persons reports, unexplained accidents, and hero stories that all shared one impossible common thread: a golden retriever that shouldn't exist. The Thompson family fire had been the first documented case. According to witness statements, the golden retriever had run through the Riverside apartment complex at 3 a.m., barking frantically at doors and windows. 17 families escaped before the aging electrical system turned the building into an inferno. The dog had been found in the Thompsons' apartment, apparently overcome by smoke while trying to wake the family, except the Thompsons didn't own a dog. Nobody could explain where it came from. Holbrook read from the fire investigator's report. No missing pet reports, no identification, no microchip. The landlord swore no dogs were allowed in the building. Dr. Martinez sat across from his desk, her own research spread before her. I've been calling veterinary offices within a 100-mile radius. 3 of them have records of treating a golden retriever matching this exact description, but for different owners in different years. She handed him a manila folder. Dr. Patricia Williams treated a dog called Ranger in 2020 after it was injured pulling a child from the Merrimack River. The owner, James Patterson, said the dog had appeared in his backyard the day before the rescue. He'd planned to take it to the shelter after the child was safe, but the dog vanished overnight. Holbrook examined the photographs. Same golden retriever, down to the distinctive darker fur pattern around the ears. And the child? 8-year-old Emma Sullivan. She'd wandered away from a family picnic and fallen through thin ice. The dog somehow knew exactly where to find her in that freezing water and guided rescue workers to the spot. Dr. Martinez pulled out another file. Emma's father insists the dog looked him in the eyes after the rescue, almost like it was saying, "Goodbye." The detective's frown deepened as he opened the next folder. Burlington Animal Hospital, 2021. Dr. Martinez continued. A golden retriever brought in after apartment building collapse. It had been leading residents to safety exits when part of the structure came down. The dog survived, but its owner didn't. Let me guess, Holbrook said grimly. No one knew who owned it. The building superintendent found it sitting outside the main entrance at dawn on the day of the collapse. He assumed it belonged to one of the tenants. Dr. Martinez's voice dropped to almost a whisper. Ray, this dog has been present at 7 major disasters over the past 5 years. Every time it appears just before catastrophe strikes. Every time it helps save lives. And every time someone dies protecting it. Holbrook walked to his whiteboard and began mapping the incidents. Springfield Fire, 2019. Merrimack River Drowning, 2020. Burlington Building Collapse, 2021. A school bus accident in Worcester, 2022. A chemical spill in Cambridge, 2023. A nursing home evacuation in Lowell, 2024. And now, Marcus Chen on Interstate 95. 7 disasters, 7 heroes, 7 deaths, he muttered, connecting the dots with red string. What are the odds? Dr. Martinez pulled out her laptop and opened a file that made Holbrook's blood run cold. I've been analyzing the timing. In every case, the dog appears exactly 24 to 48 hours before disaster strikes. Not randomly, precisely within that window. The detective stared at the timeline she'd created. You're suggesting this dog can predict catastrophes? I'm suggesting this dog is the catastrophe, Ray. Or at least it's connected to them in ways we don't understand. She turned the laptop screen toward him. Look at the satellite imagery I pulled from each location. The images showed each disaster site from above, taken days before the incidents occurred. In every photo, barely visible unless you knew what to look for, was a small golden dot near the location where tragedy would strike. Jesus, Holbrook breathed. How is that possible? Dr. Martinez closed the laptop, her expression grim. I don't know, but I know someone who might. She pulled out a business card that looked worn from handling. Dr. Elena Vasquez retired from the CDC's Special Pathogens Unit. She investigated biological anomalies that traditional science couldn't explain. biological anomalies, animals that appeared to have capabilities beyond normal biological parameters. She worked on classified cases involving creatures that seemed to possess almost supernatural abilities. Dr. Martinez met his eyes. Ray, I think we're dealing with something that science hasn't encountered before. And I think Marcus Chen's death was just the latest in a pattern that's been going on for years. Holbrook looked at the crime scene photos from the highway incident. Marcus Chen's body, the inexplicably surviving golden retriever, the fuel truck that had experienced brake failure at precisely the worst possible moment. Where is the dog now? He asked. With Linda Chen, Marcus's mother. She adopted it the day after the funeral. The detective's blood ran cold. Dr. Martinez, if your theory is right, if this dog really is connected to these disasters, then Linda Chen might be in terrible danger, she finished, and we may be running out of time to figure out what this creature really is and what it wants. Holbrook reached for his phone to call Dr. Vasquez, but stopped when he noticed the timestamp on the incident report. Marcus Chen had died exactly 72 hours ago. If the pattern held true, they had less than 24 hours before the next catastrophe struck. And this time they knew exactly where the golden retriever would be. Dr. Elena Vasquez's home office looked more like a command center than a retirement retreat. Wall-mounted monitors displayed satellite feeds, weather patterns, and seismic data from across New England. The 67-year-old former CDC researcher moved between screens with the urgency of someone half her age. You were right to call me, she told Detective Holbrook and Dr. Martinez as they studied her findings. I've been tracking this entity for 8 years, ever since the first incident in Portland, Maine. She pulled up a file marked Classified Project Guardian Angel. The photographs inside showed disaster scenes from across the country, each featuring a golden retriever that looked identical to the one now living with Linda Chen. Portland Shipyard Fire 2016, Dr. Vasquez began. 47 workers trapped in a burning warehouse. A golden retriever somehow got past security and led rescue teams to survivors. The man who tried to save the dog from the flames died of smoke inhalation. Detective Holbrook felt his stomach drop. This goes back further than we thought. Much further. I've documented 19 incidents across 12 states. Always the same pattern. The dog appears, disaster strikes, heroes emerge, and someone dies protecting the animal. Dr. Vasquez's voice carried the weight of years spent pursuing an impossible truth. But here's what makes this case different from typical unexplained phenomena. The dog isn't just predicting disasters. It's orchestrating them. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. What do you mean? Dr. Vasquez clicked to a new screen showing molecular analysis data. The blood sample you sent me contains synthetic proteins I've never encountered. They appear to be designed for cellular regeneration and enhanced physical performance. But that's not the extraordinary part. She highlighted a section of the genetic analysis. The DNA isn't canine. It's not even mammalian. The base structure resembles something more akin to extremophile bacteria, organisms that thrive in impossible conditions. Are you saying this isn't really a dog? Holbrook asked. I'm saying this entity has engineered itself to appear as a dog while possessing capabilities that defy biological explanation. It can survive explosions, fires, building collapses, and chemical exposure that would kill any living creature. Dr. Vasquez pulled up timeline data. And in every case, the accidents that occur aren't random. They're precisely timed to create maximum heroic opportunity. She showed them traffic pattern analysis from the highway incident. The fuel truck's brake failure wasn't mechanical failure. It was sabotage. Microscopic analysis of the brake line shows tool marks consistent with deliberate cutting. Someone or something wanted that truck to lose control at exactly the moment Marcus Chen would be in position to attempt a rescue. Dr. Martinez felt cold realization washing over her. It's not saving people from disasters. It's creating disasters to find heroes. But why? Holbrook demanded. What's the purpose? Dr. Vasquez turned to her most disturbing display, a wall of photographs showing every person who had died protecting the golden retriever. 43 faces spanning 8 years. each person caught in their final moment of heroism. I believe this entity feeds on something specific about the human heroic impulse, she said quietly. Not physical sustenance, but something deeper. The neural patterns associated with self-sacrifice, the biochemical changes that occur when someone chooses another's life over their own. She showed them brain scan data from survivors of the disasters. Everyone who witnessed these acts of heroism shows elevated levels of oxytocin, dopamine, and other compounds associated with profound emotional experience. But there's an anomaly. Trace amounts of the same synthetic proteins found in the dog's blood appear in their systems for weeks afterward. It's farming us, Dr. Martinez whispered. Creating scenarios where people will perform ultimate acts of heroism, then somehow feeding on the emotional and biological responses. Dr. Vasquez nodded grimly. And it's getting more sophisticated. The disasters are becoming larger, more complex. The heroic acts more dramatic, as if it's learning what combinations of tragedy and triumph produce the strongest responses. Holbrook's phone buzzed with an emergency alert. Multiple gas leaks reported in residential area, Maple Street neighborhood. He looked up at Dr. Vasquez with growing horror. That's where Linda Chen lives. Dr. Vasquez was already pulling up maps of the gas line infrastructure. 47 homes in immediate danger. If someone were to create ignition at the right moment, the explosion would require massive rescue efforts. And the golden retriever is already positioned at ground zero, Dr. Martinez said, grabbing her medical kit. As they rushed toward the door, Dr. Vasquez stopped them. There's something else you need to know. In every incident, the entity grows stronger. The synthetic proteins in its system multiply after each heroic death. If my calculations are correct, it's approaching some kind of critical mass. Meaning what? Holbrook demanded. Meaning after 43 deaths, it may have accumulated enough power to attempt something far beyond individual disasters. She showed them a projection map covering the entire eastern seaboard. I believe it's preparing for a catastrophic event that would require thousands of heroes, generate massive emotional response, and feed it enough energy to replicate. Detective Holbrook felt the weight of impossible responsibility settling on his shoulders. They weren't just trying to prevent another disaster. They were trying to stop something that could multiply and spread across the country, creating an endless cycle of tragedy and heroism. As they raced toward Maple Street, each of them understood that Linda Chen's life hung in the balance. But more than that, they might be humanity's last chance to stop an entity that had learned to transform human courage into its own dark purpose. The golden retriever had been preparing for this moment for 8 years. Now it was their turn to be heroes. Linda Chen knelt in her garden, pulling weeds around the memorial rosebush she'd planted for Marcus. The golden retriever sat beside her, perfectly still except for its eyes, which tracked every movement in the neighborhood with unsettling precision. She'd named him Hero, though something about that felt inadequate for what he represented. Mrs. Chen. Detective Holbrook's voice cut through the evening air as he, Dr. Martinez, and Dr. Vasquez hurried up her walkway. You need to evacuate immediately. There's been a gas leak. I know, Linda said calmly, not looking up from her roses. I can smell it. The three stopped short. The gas odor was unmistakable now that they focused on it, but Linda Chen showed no signs of alarm. More disturbing still, the golden retriever hadn't moved, hadn't shown any of the agitation animals typically display when sensing danger. Dr. Vasquez stepped forward. Mrs. Chen, how long have you been able to smell the gas? About an hour. Linda finally looked up, and Dr. Martinez saw something in her eyes that made her stomach clench, the same too knowing expression they'd seen in the dog. It started right after Hero began acting strangely. Strangely how? Holbrook asked, his hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. Linda Chen stood slowly, brushing dirt from her hands. He's been trying to tell me something. About Marcus, about why he really died on that highway. She looked down at the golden retriever with an expression of profound sadness. Haven't you, boy? The dog's ears perked up, and for the first time since they'd known of its existence, it made a sound. Not a bark or whine, but something closer to a mechanical hum. barely audible but unmistakably artificial. Dr. Vasquez pulled out a device that immediately began beeping frantically. "Electromagnetic readings are off the charts," she said, staring at the display. "Mrs. Chen, please step away from the animal." "He won't hurt me," Linda said with quiet certainty. "He's been trying to show me the truth about all of them, the heroes who died protecting him." She looked directly at Dr. Vasquez. "You know, don't you, what he really is?" The mechanical humming grew louder, and suddenly the golden retriever's form began to shimmer, like heat waves, rising from summer asphalt. The illusion that had maintained itself for 8 years was finally breaking down. "It's a probe," Dr. Vasquez said, her voice barely above a whisper. "An advanced reconnaissance entity sent to study human behavior under extreme stress." The shimmering intensified, and through the golden fur they could see something else, a crystalline structure that pulsed with internal light, maintained by technology beyond human understanding. Linda Chen nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Marcus didn't die saving a dog. He died protecting Earth's first contact with an alien intelligence, and so did all the others." The entity's true voice emerged, not through vocal cords, but directly into their minds. The words came with images, emotions, and concepts that human language could barely contain. "We came to understand your species' capacity for selflessness. The willingness to sacrifice individual survival for the welfare of others appeared unique among intelligent life we had encountered. We needed to test this trait, to measure its strength and prevalence." Dr. Martinez felt tears she couldn't explain streaming down her face as the entity continued. "Each heroic act provided data about your neural patterns, emotional responses, and behavioral triggers. We learned that humans possess something we had never observed, the ability to transcend biological imperative through conscious choice." "The disasters," Holbrook managed to say. "You caused them to create heroes. We created scenarios that would reveal true character. Those who chose self-sacrifice were not random victims. They were chosen because their neural patterns indicated the highest probability of heroic response. Marcus Chen scored highest of all subjects we had observed." Linda Chen stepped closer to the entity, her fear replaced by understanding. "Show them, hero. Show them what Marcus really chose." The air around them filled with images. Marcus Chen's memories from his final moments. They saw him recognize the fuel truck's approach, calculate the odds of survival, and make his choice not just to save a dog, but to protect what he somehow understood was humanity's first chance at peaceful contact with another intelligence. "He knew," the entity continued. "In the final seconds, Marcus Chen understood what I truly was. He chose to preserve first contact rather than save himself. His sacrifice ensured that this moment could occur. Peaceful revelation rather than discovery through tragedy." Dr. Vasquez lowered her equipment. "The other heroes, did they know too?" Some suspected. All chose to trust that their sacrifice served a purpose greater than they could fully comprehend. They gave their lives not just for a creature in need, but for the future of both our species. The gas leak was still present, still dangerous, but suddenly none of them felt the panic they'd experienced moments before. This wasn't another test or disaster. It was the final breakdown of the entity's disguise, requiring enormous energy to maintain communication in human language. "What happens now?" Linda asked. The entity's form stabilized, returning to the familiar, golden retriever appearance, though now they could all see through to the crystalline structure beneath. "My mission is complete. I have learned that humans possess genuine heroism, not the product of genetic programming or social conditioning, but conscious choice to value others above self. This information has been transmitted to my people." "And?" Holbrook pressed. "First, contact will proceed through official channels within your governmental structures, but the foundation has been laid by those who died to protect this moment. Their heroism made peace possible." Linda Chen knelt beside the entity one final time. "Will I see Marcus again? His patterns, his essence, his heroic choice, all are preserved within my memory banks. In a sense, Marcus Chen and all the others continue to exist, their heroism serving as a bridge between our peoples. The gas leak suddenly stopped, the artificial crisis ending as the entity's power stabilized. In the distance, they could hear sirens approaching, not for an emergency, but because Dr. Vasquez had sent a coded signal to her former colleagues. Humanity's age of isolation was about to end, made possible by 43 heroes who had chosen love over fear, sacrifice over survival, and hope over despair. Marcus Chen's death had saved more than a dog from a highway. It had saved First Contact itself. 6 months after the revelation on Maple Street, Dr. Sarah Martinez stood before the United Nations General Assembly, holding a crystalline device that pulsed with gentle light. The formal First Contact protocols had been established, but she had requested the honor of sharing the story that made peace possible. "The entity we knew as Hero has returned to its people," she began, her voice carrying to delegates from 193 nations. But before departing, it left us with something unprecedented in the history of First Contact: a complete record of human heroism as seen through alien eyes. The device in her hands projected holographic images above the assembly hall. 43 faces appeared suspended in light, every person who had died protecting what they thought was simply a dog in need. Marcus Chen, Thompson family, James Patterson, Elena Rodriguez. Dr. Martinez read each name as their image glowed brighter. These individuals and 39 others became unwitting ambassadors for our entire species. Their choices in moments of crisis demonstrated to an advanced alien civilization that humanity possesses something remarkable: the capacity for genuine selflessness. Detective Ray Holbrook, now serving as liaison between human and alien governments, joined her at the podium. The Etherian Collective, that's the name they've given us for themselves, had studied 17 other intelligent species before reaching Earth. In every case, they found that apparent altruism was actually sophisticated genetic programming designed to preserve group survival. Humans are the first species they encountered whose individuals could truly choose others' welfare over their own biological imperatives. Linda Chen watched from the gallery, wearing a medal that bore Marcus's image alongside the seal of the newly established Interspecies Relations Commission. The entity had spent its final weeks on Earth in her home, sharing memories of Marcus's last moments that brought her both heartbreak and profound comfort. He knew, the entity had told her in those final conversations. When Marcus saw me in the highway wreckage, some part of him recognized that I was more than I appeared. His choice wasn't just to save a dog. It was to protect something he sensed was important for all humanity. Dr. Elena Vasquez, reinstated from retirement to head the new Department of Xenobiological Research, presented the scientific findings. Analysis of the entity's records reveals that human heroism produces unique neurochemical signatures, patterns of brain activity that the Etherians had never observed. What we call courage, they recognized as a form of consciousness evolution that occurs when individuals transcend their biological programming. The holographic display shifted to show brain scans from each heroic act. The neural patterns were beautiful in their complexity, fireworks of synaptic activity that occurred when someone chose to risk everything for another. More remarkably, Dr. Vasquez continued, these heroic neural patterns appear to be contagious. Witnesses to genuine acts of selflessness show measurable changes in their own brain chemistry, becoming more likely to perform heroic acts themselves. The Etherians realized they were observing the mechanism by which human consciousness can deliberately evolve toward greater compassion. The Secretary General rose to address the Assembly. The Etherian Collective has shared technology that will help us solve climate change, disease, and poverty. But they've made it clear that these gifts come with a responsibility. We must prove that the heroism they observed wasn't aberrant behavior, but representative of humanity's true potential. Linda Chen was invited to speak last. She approached the podium with quiet dignity, carrying a photo of Marcus at his volunteer work with rescued animals. My son didn't die for an alien experiment, she said, her voice clear and strong. He died because he saw a creature in need and couldn't walk away. That's who Marcus was, who all 43 of these heroes were. They didn't know they were being tested. They just knew that someone needed help. She looked up at the images still glowing above the assembly. The entity told me that in all their travels across the galaxy, they'd never encountered a species where individuals would spontaneously risk their lives for beings they'd never met. The fact that humans do this regularly without recognition or reward convinced them that we're ready for membership in the galactic community. The crystalline device in Dr. Martinez's hands pulsed brighter as Linda continued. But the most important thing the entity shared with me was this. Every act of heroism creates ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. Marcus's choice to protect a creature in need didn't just save first contact. It demonstrated that even in our darkest moments, humans choose love over fear. As the assembly hall fell silent, the holographic images of the 43 heroes began to fade, but not disappear. They transformed into points of light that scattered throughout the hall, settling over each delegate like blessing or challenge. Dr. Martinez concluded the presentation with the entity's final message to humanity. You have shown us that consciousness can evolve beyond self-preservation toward genuine compassion. This is the rarest trait in the universe, and the foundation upon which galactic civilization rests. Guard it carefully, nurture it in your children, and never forget that heroism isn't about the absence of fear. It's about love being stronger than fear. Outside the United Nations building, a golden retriever statue now stood in memorial to the 43 heroes. The inscription read, "In memory of those who chose love over fear, sacrifice over survival, and hope over despair. Their heroism made the stars our destination." Linda Chen visited the statue daily, always carrying a tennis ball that Marcus had thrown for shelter dogs just days before his death. She would sit beside the bronze golden retriever and whisper stories about her son, about the entity that had tested humanity and found them worthy, and about the heroes who had unknowingly saved first contact itself. The truth about the dog from the highway had stunned everyone, just as promised. But more than stunning, it had shown humanity something profound about itself. That in a universe full of intelligent life governed by survival instinct, humans possessed something precious and rare, the ability to love strangers enough to die for them. Marcus Chen had died saving a dog from a highway, but in truth, he had died saving humanity's future among the stars, ensuring that first contact came as a gift rather than a conquest, and proving that heroism wasn't just a human trait, it was humanity's gift to the galaxy.